Hello and welcome back to the Open Resourcery. It's Devi, and today on Devi's Divination Corner, we're going to go over Lithomancy. So, I'm not going to lie, this is not my favorite in terms of divination. I don't particularly vibe with it, but there may be somebody out there that does, and hopefully this opens the door for you. So, what is Lithomancy? So this is divination by casting stones. So there is two different ways to really go about this. From what I understand, like I said, this is not my wheelhouse. It does not vibe with me. I don't care for it so much. There is either selecting a stone out of a bag intuitively, or casting the stones onto like a table. Like you have a cloth that has symbols and signs and things like that on it, or just a plain cloth and seeing how they fall. Maybe with a circle on it, because anything that falls outside of the circle is not necessary. But not necessarily my way of doing things, but here's how it goes. So in a lithomancy guide, what I've gotten is that there's typically 13 stones. Each of them to represent like the first 7 planets, right? We got the Sun, the Moon, Saturn, Venus, Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, and then we go into Earth, Air, Fire, Water, Spirit, and the universe. So each of those having their own meanings, like the sun being power and energy and life, almost like tarot, right? The moon, inspiration, psychic ability, intuition, just like tarot. Saturn, that is longevity and protection. This is structure. Venus, love, fidelity, happiness. This almost goes into like an astrology and tarot kind of combination. It's like a bastard child of the two. Pardon my language, but it's going over these concepts. And then we also have earth, air, fire, and water. Things like fire is a lot of inspiration. It's passion. It's willpower. Water is going to be more emotional, compassion, like feeling for others, reconciliation, healing, cleansing. Air is going to be mental. That is going to be intelligence and all of those things, inspiration in terms of that. And earth is going to be like that security, right? Spirit is, of course, going to be more along the lines of the divine, and the universe is going to be the grand scheme of things versus it's going to be a macrocosm versus a microcosm. So if you have a lithomancy set, they're all going to come pre-marked. If you're deciding to do this for yourself, you're selecting the stones based on the meanings, right? Either a crystal or just river pebbles. And you're marking them yourself. You're doing that yourself, which I will always advocate for. Even if you're, like for me, I got my own runes. You can make runes out of anything. So if you want to use pieces of wood, you use pieces of wood. If you want to use stones, you use stones. If you want to make them out of clay, you make them out of clay. This is very much find the stone that fits for yourself, because this is your own speaking to the divine getting those messages to you, right? So you pick which way you want to go with it. Do you want to really go into like a meditative state and put your hand in a bag with your stones and reach around and kind of feel like what's going to give you the answer? And then you take that one out, and which one does that symbolize, right? Does it have the symbol of Mars on it? And it's just like, hey, your question, you need courage for this. It's going to take action, because Mars is all about that action, right? Mars is all about that action. So definitive, possibly combative action. Or is it going to be more Venus? Venus isn't forceful. Venus is letting things flow. If you're finding resistance, that means that you're not doing it wrong, or you're not doing it right. So in that, yes, the intuitive part, I could see that. But there's also the casting. So you got your circle mat, right? And you go ahead and you ask your question, just like any other divination method. I want you to focus on it. I want you to really be in tune with yourself, because divination is a messaging between you and the universe, you and the gods, you and the divine, right? It's not something to just be sitting there going, oh my God, does he like me? Does he like the way that my hair was cut today? Like, that's not what this is for. Sure, we want to create a bond and a connection to the spirits and guides and guardians and gods and goddesses and all of that around us. And sometimes it gets silly because they have a sense of humor. But if that's what we're only using divination for, please don't. Just please don't. But whenever you're asking these questions and you're using the casting method, you've got your cloth in front of you that has the circle. At least I do want you to have a circle, because anything that falls outside of the circle is not necessarily pertaining to this. That has, spirits have decided, hey, these elements are not in play. So say you're asking about, your boss is asking you to take more hours on at work, right? Play for the team. Take on more at work. And you cast the stones to see, like, hey, I don't feel so sure about this. I want to see what spirit has to say. And immediately, Venus is out. Water is outside of the circle. And they're going, okay, Mars and Mercury. Okay, Mars and Mercury, they fall together. Cool. Mercury is all about communication. Mercury is all about that. Mars is going to be your action. So you have to talk on your actions. You have to figure out, okay, how does this apply to me? And you have to apply it to your situation. So that's more of like a negative, like negatory. That would be too much energy. That compassionate crap is not going to fly here. You need to do what's best for you. You know what I mean? So it's really going to be up to you and how you interpret the placements. If they fall next to each other, they're going to amplify that message. That's going to be more important. Sure, if something falls outside of the circle, my opinion of it is, it's not necessarily going to apply to the question that you have. We're going to take that out of the equation altogether, or that is an outside force, needs more of a whisper than an actual speech. So, like I said in the beginning, lithomancy is not necessarily my forte, not something that I would go after, but I've seen people that do it incredibly proficiently. It's just, it doesn't speak to me in the way that it speaks to them. So maybe if it speaks to you, go ahead, tell us about your experience with it. I would love to know. But this is Devi on Devi's Divination Corner on the Opener Sorcery. This was about lithomancy, and I will see you guys next time. Have a good one.